Good evening and welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Breaking Views on NDTV. I am Ankit Tyagi. There is, too many political topics that are being discussed, but one very important amongst all the noise that possibly could be a game changer for more than 50% of this country. And that's what we are focusing here on Breaking Views. Ladies and gentlemen, while one nation, one election, the whole debate which has started today around India or Bharat is on, there is another important issue which once again created buzz and trust me, even excitement in, may I say, more than 50% of our country's population. Speculation is rife that the Women Reservation Bill could be introduced in the upcoming session of the Parliament. The bill to reserve 33% of seats in the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies for women has got a fillip after Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar said on Monday that the day is not far when women will get due representation in countries' legislatures. Now, the Vice President's comment has sparked speculation that the Women Reservation Bill may be moved during the special session of the Parliament from 18 September to 22nd September, the agenda for which is yet to be revealed by the government. I want you to first listen in to what the Vice President said.
वो दिन दूर नहीं है, बल्कि बहुत नजदीक है, जब अपने भारत में, इस महान देश में, संसद और विधानसभाओं में महिलाओं का उचित प्रतिनिधित्व है, संविधान में बदलाव कर आएगा.
Now remember viewers, the Women Representation Bill or the Constitution 108th Amendment Bill, which proposes 33% reservation for women in Lok Sabha and State Assembly, was passed in March 2010 in Rajya Sabha amid high drama when the UPA government headed by Manmohan Singh was in power. But the 15th Lok Sabha could not pass the bill and it lapsed following its dissolution in 2014. Parties such as Samajwadi Party and the Rashtriya Janata Dal at that point of time had opposed the bill in the current form, demanding a quota within the quota. Now on Tuesday, Telangana MLC and Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao's daughter K. Kavita also wrote a letter to the president of all 47 political parties with representation in the parliament and urged them to set aside political differences and prioritize the passage of this bill in the upcoming special session.
And with folded hands, I request all the political parties to kindly take up this issue and rise above the political partisanship. Take up this issue because this is one of the easiest bills to be passed. This current government doesn't have a comfortable majority in Rajya Sabha, but Women's Reservation Bill is already passed in Rajya Sabha. So they just have to put it in the Lok Sabha and give the Women's Reservation Bill.
Unfortunately, कुछ राजनीतिक दल उसको समर्थन देते नहीं और खास तौर पर आज जिनकी मेजॉरिटी है, आज जिनके हाथ में हुकूमत है, इन लोगों को इसको समर्थन कहाँ से है ये बात साफ नहीं हो रही. उन्होंने तय दिखाई तो हम उसको समर्थन देने के लिए पूरी तरह से तैयार हैं. मगर मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी और उनके साथी इस सब्जेक्ट को प्रायोरिटी देंगे नहीं कि 5 दिन का सेशन उन्हें ये इशू आएगा नहीं. समझ आ गया तो हमारा समझ.
लेकिन इसमें हमें कोई आपत्ति नहीं, कम से कम कुछ टिप्पणी करने के पहले हमें ये सारे जो विधायक लाए जाएंगे इसकी थोड़ा झांकने का मौका दिया जाना जरूरी. लेकिन 1/3 जो महिला संरक्षण ये मैडम सोनिया गांधी जी की अगुवाई में यूपीए सरकार ने पारित कर चुके हैं, पारित कर दिए थे. शायद इनके अभी ये लगे कि मैडम सोनिया गांधी जी जो काम उनके अधूरा रहती वो अभी पूरा करने का जरूरत है, ये शायद इन लोग को ये महसूस हो रहे हैं. हो सकता है, पता नहीं सरकार क्या करना चाहते हैं. कथनी और करनी में सरकार की हर वक्त फर्क तो रहते हैं.
So it will be very interesting if this happens and how the political parties and the political fortunes will then, of course, be stacked. But very quickly, taking you back in history on the timeline of how the Women Reservation Bill, in fact, has found resonance as far as the political parties have concerned, and despite that is yet to be passed. Let's very quickly turn our attention to this whole history of the Women Reservation Bill. In 1996, this was the first time when the bill was introduced by the Parliament. This was by the Devi Gowda government. Now, in 1998, the Vajpayee government reintroduced the bill in the Lok Sabha. In 1999, the NDA government again reintroduced the bill in the Lok Sabha. Then in 2002, the bill was reintroduced but failed to sail through as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned. Now, 2003, the bill was introduced twice. In 2008, the UPA government tabled the bill in Rajya Sabha. 2010, the Rajya Sabha passed the bill during the UPA government. As I told you, Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister at that point of time. The BJP left JDU, supported the bill at that point of time, but it could not pass the scrutiny of the Lok Sabha. The current status is that it needs to be reintroduced in Lok Sabha as the old bill, or it can also be introduced as a new bill by the government of India. But ladies and gentlemen, the question now is, why do we need reservation for women? Just take a look at just some very small data points. According to the Global Gender Gap Report 2022, India ranks 48 out of 146 countries in political empowerment, that is percentage of women in parliament and ministerial positions dimension. We rank 46 out of 48 out of 146 countries. And what you see on your screens right now, in 2019 Lok Sabha election, women voters were equal, in fact, few decimal points more than male voters, which was celebrated as a big milestone as far as our electoral process is concerned. But what was the representation of the women in the current parliament? Take a look. Lok Sabha, 15%, Rajya Sabha, 14%. So for the 50% Abadi, the percentage of their representation is only 15 and 14% in both the house, the lower and the upper house. There have been a lot of arguments both in favor and against the women reservation. Those against the reservation say the reservation should provide for equal quota for Dalit, backward, extremely backward and minority communities, without which it will be meaningless. The other argument against the bill is reserving the seats for women is opposed by some, in fact those who claim that doing so violates the Constitution's guarantee of equality. Now, those in favor have been making the argument that affirmative action is necessary to better the condition of women. Women are still underrepresented in parliament. We have seen that through that data. And that reservation will, in fact, improve that representation. More women in decision-making positions are needed to address high percentage of crimes against women, low participation of women in workforce, and low nutrition levels, and also skewed sex ratios. Now, being a constitutional amendment, the bill will require the support of 2/3 of the members in the Lok Sabha. It was part of the BJP's election manifesto in 2014, and sources say its passage is likely to benefit the party to consolidate the women votes. Remember, all parties would be eyeing this vote, and that's the reason why in March the Congress had also asked the BJP to make its stand clear on the bill and demanded it to be tabled in the Lok Sabha. Let me very quickly now go across, in fact, to my panelists this evening after that detailed explanation about the women representation bill. Those who are joining me this evening, ladies and gentlemen, I have joining me now Ghanshyam Tiwari. He is from the Samajwadi Party, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Ghanshyam, welcome to the show. Amrit Jagdeep, the Congress Party senior leader from the Congress Party, spokesperson, is also with us at this moment. We also have Charu Pragya, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Amrit Jagdeep, before I go to Charu Pragya, I want to start with you. You are a member of parliament as well. Your party, in principle, has always supported the women reservation bill, but the Congress was in power for 10 years before the Modi government came in. The obvious question would be, why couldn't you pass that bill? If Rajya Sabha was able to pass the bill, why couldn't you drive consensus to pass the bill in fact, Lok Sabha?
So it was a very definite, I would say that lot was tried after it was passed in the Rajya Sabha on March 2010, and efforts were made also to see that it goes through the same passage in the Lok Sabha, but it failed and it couldn't. And you could see some of the parties and what was the stance of those parties. So it just remained as it is, and it could not be passed. But thereafter, after 2014, it has not even taken at all some kind of, it has not even surfaced, despite demands or requests being made by women parliamentarians and from several quarters in society that the reservation bill should go through. And thereafter, 2019, I mean, with a majority government, I think it would have been the best step that the government could have taken, but it did not, because I think what they speak, they do not mean, and they, I think, are not taking women's reservation bill seriously.
Okay, so Dr. Yagdeep, may I ask you this? If the government does decide, we don't know, we can't speculate on what the government is going to do in the special session, but if the government does decide to bring this bill in the special session of the parliament, will the Congress party be standing behind the government as far as this bill is concerned in Lok Sabha?
Congress party has been always for women empowerment. You have to go back to Rajiv Gandhi's time and the Panchayati Raj and the number of Sarpanch women we have today and how they have excelled in the decision-making processes and the parliamentary democracy. You have to see at the grassroots level and how they have sided with women and even done hand-holding with other women, which has empowered other women. So I think this has been one of the finest part of our democracy, the women empowerment part, and the Panchayati Raj, the local self-government which has got women empowerment done. And it's a unique example for, if you take the past centuries and the future centuries, I think no government would ever be able to do that. Just as Rajiv Gandhi did.
Charu Pragya, I want to bring you in at this moment. This was a dare of sorts as far as the opposition is concerned. Be it the Congress party, which in March, in fact, asked the government to bring this, table this bill in the Lok Sabha. The other opposition parties, including the BRS, is also asking for this bill to be tabled. Is the Bharatiya Janata Party ready, in fact, to bring about this important change? You have a brute majority in Lok Sabha. All you have to do is table the bill.
Good evening, Ankit, and I'm glad you have chosen such a pertinent topic for your conversation today. And before I begin, let me tell you that I am in support of the Women's Reservation Bill because I believe our country needs it, and the time is right now to bring more and more women to the legislative process. We do talk about the 14 to 15% women in Indian Parliament, but mostly we forget to mention the number of women in society. And let's remember that our parliament is a reflection of our society. We cannot separate the two. We need to remember that when we look at any other part of the Indian society, in the judiciary, 7% women, CEOs, 3% women, surgeons, again between 8 to 9% women, architects, 11% women. So wherever you see and wherever you go, we realize that the representation of women in leadership roles is sadly lacking. Now, my government and my party both have worked tremendously hard to bring about a change in these numbers, whether it is simple things like getting women into the NDA or making sure women are now in combat roles in armed forces, making sure we look after their health, making sure that we are cutting down on female infanticide. We are making sure that they are getting enough medicines, enough nutrition. All of this adds up to the situation of women in the country, and that is when you get them at a level where they can compete. They can compete at a level.
No, but Charu, it's great to say that the government is trying to, get more representation of the women in all other fields, but why not in politics? So coming to that point, is the government ready to take on that dare of the opposition?
I'm absolutely, you know what, this is nothing to do with a dare that the opposition will throw at us. Let me assure you of that, because we remain the single party in this entire country, the only party in this entire country, which has 33% reservation for women within our party's organizational structure. And no other party has bothered to do that till now.
Okay.
In fact, if I may quote the Congress party, they want to talk about Ladki Hu Lad Sakti Hu in the state of Uttar Pradesh, where they want to field 50% women candidates, but at the
Okay, Charu, we are losing the connection. In fact, I think there is some problem. We'll try and reconnect with Charu Pragya. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, this is one topic. And when I was, searching for a panel to speak on this topic, it seemed that both BJP and the Congress more or less would be surprisingly speaking in the same voice. For the Samajwadi Party, which stood against this bill, whether it was on the context of sub-quota within this very quota, where does the Samajwadi Party stand on the women reservation bill as we speak today?
Good evening, Ankit, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers, and it's a privilege to be part of this panel, which I have two eminent women spokespersons. As far as the bill is concerned, there are two things which is very important. The first, the primary thing, that it is a shame that in a vibrant democracy of 140 crore people, we are playing magic tricks with the agenda of a special session of a parliament. That on a esteemed national channel such as NDTV, with a member of parliament participating in debate, there is no one who has a clue of what the agenda of a session is going to be. This is not how a democracy runs. This is how dictatorships run. That tomorrow when the emperor wakes up or the dictator wakes up, the maverick idea that the emperor has, the nation will work on it. So we have seen these maverick ideas from Notebandi to rapidly implemented lockdown to overnight implemented GST to the farm bill. So unless the BJP gets its process right, they are never going to come to it. As far as the bill itself is concerned, it is a great step for the country that this bill has been in the parliamentary process for a sufficient amount of time, that the dialogue has also happened on the ground. And dialogue on the ground, if you speak to any young girl, any woman in the country, is that India is ready for a greater, fairer representation of women in politics.
But Ghanshyam, be very clear about this. Be very clear about this. Is the Samajwadi Party, if tomorrow, fine, we don't know the agenda of the government, if the government does decide to bring this bill, is the Samajwadi Party backing this bill, as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned? This is where Samajwadi Party, and at that point of time, JDU had put hurdles when the UPA government wanted to bring this in the Lok Sabha.
It was a legitimate point to make with respect to quota within quota, but beyond that, to trust this government that stands with Braj Bhushan Singh, that stands with the rapists of Bilkis Bano, that stands with Babu Bajrangi, that they will bring this bill. They are just playing with the emotions of people. Okay. It is shameful that they want.
Charu wants to come in, but before that,
created some kind of sensationalization to be created rather than a dialogue. If they were seriously interested, BJP has over 30 members of parliament in the current look.
I am sorry, I don't understand this whole argument of dialogue. This has been on in the parliamentary process since 1996. How long do we need a dialogue and discussion on a bill on a very simple legislation like this? What dialogue do we need? It's been in the process from 1996. And from 1996, you have been part of that parliamentary process.
BJP does not want it, Ankit. It is not a draw of lots. This is not a parrot walking out of the cage and picking up the agenda of the nation for a special session of parliament.
Okay.
This is real democracy. We must know what the agenda is rather than
Right, but you said that if the bill comes in, you will support, right?
I do not trust this government who stands with Braj Bhushan Singh to bring anything.
Sir, you are still not giving me a straight away answer. Amrit Yagnik, you wanted to come in earlier when Charu Pragya was speaking about your party. All the political parties, they talk about women representation, they talk about equal opportunity. They are not able to implement the same within their own organizations.
Ankit, I think we are just thinking too much in advance, because when we are talking of the present government or the democracy or women reservation bill, we are talking about absolute non-transparency of this government in a democracy which is said to be mother of democracy or transparency or whatever. There is no governance model. So you are anticipating something which is completely in a box. It is completely secretive, and the nation doesn't know, nor the members of the parliament know what is the agenda on Monday, the first day of the special session.
Okay.
If this kind of
I'm
transparency
totally out of time. Let
is
Charu
going to
Pragya
be the
respond
part
to
of
that. Charu,
democracy, I think this
it is such an
governance model
important
is a
bill. If
failure.
you want
So
to
you
bring
taking
it,
up
why
anything,
in
forget
fact
about
get
women
get
reservation
into this
bill,
kind of
any
kite
issue.
flying
I
or
think you are
using
groping
a
in
hot
the
air
dark.
balloon? The VP has spoken. You should have been very clear if the government wants to bring such an important bill that we are going ahead with it. Why keep the nation in dark?
Absolutely. And Ankit, to be clear, I don't represent the government here. I represent the party in power. And I'm certain that once the business of the House is decided, it will be conveyed to all the members of Parliament. That is their prerogative and not mine. But when I was cut off, I was saying very clearly that there are double standards by these political parties, and I wanted to give you some data about Congress. So when Congress says ladki hu lad sakti hu in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and they want to give 50% tickets to women,
Okay.
they do not want to give more than 8% tickets in the state of Punjab. They don't want to give more than 4.5% tickets in the state of Goa, and that exposes them. That
Right.
exposes their hypocrisy, and that is what we're trying to fight here. Let's get women at a par where they can contest with
Okay.
meritocracy with whoever they are pitted against. And
Okay,
that's
I have
our
to leave it
agenda.
here. I have to leave it here. It's an important debate, and we will try and bring this in the conversation again and again. That's all the time that, ladies and gentlemen, I have in this edition of Breaking Views. We'll continue with our explainers on important topics and bring you multiple voices from all across all political hues and color for better clarity, your understanding and ours. Thank you so much. Good night.